Welcome to the Toomey Stock Market Report. Today's subject is the 200 EMA. Is it a trade, bull, and bear case? Today is May 8th, 2022, Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Enjoy your day. All right, the 200 EMA. Should we use it to trade, and how can we incorporate it into our trading strategy? That's today's segment. Let's get right into it. The 200 EMA. What is the 200 EMA? Well, it's an exponential moving average. It's a moving average that places a greater weight on the most recent data points. It's a technical indicator. It's used to produce buy and sell signals because it's based on divergences from historical averages. Traders often use this along with other exponential moving averages like the 10-day, 50-day, 200-day. There'll be future segments where I will incorporate various EMAs and how to use those to trade, especially depending on the short-term versus long-term. But certainly the 200 EMA, that's pretty much a long-term indicator, or that's how I use it. So the 200 EMA, we talked about what it is. Stocks trading near the 2 EMA often bounce. It can either act as support, and if it's below the 200 EMA, it often acts as resistance. It doesn't happen often when stocks hit that level, so we want to be in the game when it does, depending on the stock, of course. Nearly 70% of all the stocks trading in the New York Stock Exchange currently are below their 200 EMA. 70%. That's certainly a statistic that points to a bear market. So today I'm going to recommend, or at least point out, some stocks that you may want to trade that are reaching near or at their 200 EMA. Just keep this 70% in mind, because most likely we're more in a tailspin than tailwinds versus headwinds. I mean, headwinds versus tailwinds. And that brings us to, should we trade short or long? Let's see. I'm going to jump right in right now with a couple of stocks. Let's see. Let's take a look at a couple that I like. All right, U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel is one I follow. It's a lower price stock, so it can be one to trade. It is right at its 200 EMA. This is a daily chart, right? So I'm in it. I got into this in and around this point, and right now I've got a stop in. Fairly tight stop, probably down around 26, in and around at 27 or so. And I'm going to see what happens over the next couple of days. I'm going to give you a short dissertation of what to watch for right now. But overall, let's take a look at what is the 200 EMA produced in the past. Well, if we were back here in right in the beginning of March, it certainly came. It hit the 200 EMA, and then it bounced off it, and you had a nice little run. You keep in mind, U.S. Steel is benefiting from this infrastructure deal out there, anticipation of money going into roads, bridges, etc., more building, right? So more use of steel. It did bounce around the 200 EMA. This is, so let's see, January to February, and then March. It was above. It was using the 200. It went sideways on the 200 EMA back in November to the end of the year last year, 2021. Bounced, used it as pretty much a sideways move, not resistance, not a springboard. So kind of in the stock, you had a chance to hold it for a while and watch it go. It did bounce. It came back down. Good area to have your stop. In this particular case, it broke well below. I was in and out of it a couple of times, and at some point it was either a decision to go short or go long. I just stayed out of it, and as it came up towards its 200 EMA, got into it and took a ride. Okay, so that's what you want to do. There's some other inflection points along here. This black line and the gold line, that's at 15, and the 9 EMA or 10 EMA. I'll go over those in future segments. But I just want you to get a feel. When it was in this, the market here pretty much for U.S. Steel, from a gross, pretty much upward movement, right? So upward biased in the market for this stock. Every time it came near the 200 EMA, it had kind of a bounce. And then certainly this was a really terrific bounce here. So when it gets in around the 200 EMA on this particular stock, I think you want to be in it. And it can be quite some period of time. Look at this. It was back in 2020 in October. Bounced around the 200 EMA. If you had bought in and around that area, you had a nice ride up. There's a lot of pain if you were underneath the 200 EMA for quite a period of time. The opposite, right? So as you can tell, it can be a resistance or it can be support. A lot of times in this particular case, are we coming back to this inflection point down here? Maybe. It looks like the overall market, as we talked last segment, is down. So we've got some issues there. But the weekly is way down here at 18. The last time it was in the 200 EMA, it certainly bounced off of it. So according to the weekly chart, it looks like we've got some opportunity to definitely go towards that level. So you got to be careful. You want to be in the market, but you also want to have stops so that you're not losing your principal, right? All right, so let's take a look at another stock. Another one I like to follow. Utilities. XLU. It's a ETF for utilities. The daily chart, same deal. We're getting near there. I had some buys in down in here in the 69.70 level. It ticked off recently, and it has bounced up a little bit. It's about a few points away from it now, 3 or 4 points. This is something I'd want to get a buy-in, right? Maybe in 71, 72. Certainly test it out, test drive it for a little while. It's in a downtrend, yes. Could it go sideways for a while? Yes. Will it break down and hit that 200 EMA? Probably. I don't know, but it's one I want to be playing with. Utilities right now, as interest rates rise, utilities go out of fashion, especially individual utility stocks. But a lot of people, especially investors, they're just parking their money. They're not looking for the big scary ride up or down. They're going to take that money out of utilities and move it towards bonds that are giving you 3%, 4%, whatever. We're not talking big money maker movers here. But I like this stock because usually when it hits around the 200 EMA, and utilities have certainly been positive. Are there more tailwinds or headwinds coming up for them? Even though interest rates are going up, last segment we talked about, environmental factors where the government wants you to go towards renewable versus fossil fuels. But, as fossil fuels less are being produced and we have to import more, chances are, you're going to have to, it's going to be higher prices, and it affects utilities, right? It's pretty hard. People still use AC and they still need heat. But anyways, look at every time it hit the 200 EMA, I used it as a springboard, and there was some nice rides. If we look quickly at the weekly on this one, you got a long ways to go, 62 and it's at 72. That's a big jump down. Maybe it's heading more towards the next inflection point, mid 60s. I'd kind of look at that as being the next low, but I want to be in this. I want to definitely be in this, and just have a tight stop. Another one is let's see, UNH is a good one, well-known stock, certainly an uptrend for a long period of time, and it's been a very good company. It's a costly one. It's at 500. It hasn't reached its 200 EMA. I am not in this, but I do have buys in here in the 470 range or so, right above the 200 EMA, because you can see a lot of times it gets near it, but it doesn't pop off, right? It doesn't touch it, and then it pops off. Is it going to go continue in the uptrend? I don't know. It's kind of hitting this. If you look at the lower mark trend here, it's kind of getting close to that. So I definitely want to be in it around here, 480 or so, and my stop. I'll stop at probably 470. 475 or something like that. And then I have bison down here at 465 and what have you, nearing close to that 200 EMA. Same deal. As it gets to it, we saw it bounce. But again, that was during an uptrend. The weekly, it's kind of take a snapshot of the weekly. 200 EMA is down here. The last time it hit that number was back down in March of 2022. You're probably 440. May be the next stopping point if it continues down. If it goes below that, you're definitely going to head towards that 200 EMA. 440 is definitely below the 465. But there's some other inflection points I'm looking at right now. They're all pointing down, and the relative strength index, and we go into this one at a future point. That's this fuchsia line or purple line. It's definitely on the strength is weakening, and it's quite low. It's probably heading down, right? But another one I want to take a look at is I go over Microsoft. Microsoft is a NASDAQ stock, and as the NASDAQ, it's been a really beaten down indice. It's in a bear market. The NASDAQ, will it continue to be in a bear market? Most likely. It'll have its bear market rallies. But Microsoft is another one. This one is below the 200 EMA. So I've been in and out of this quite a few times in the last several days. And, what I'm looking at here, here's a low, here's a low, here's another low, and here's a fourth time an attempt to break that low. And it really hasn't broken that low. So, you want to maybe get a nibble in and around here in the 270s, 275 area. Keep a stop anything below this last low here. Let's say, 238, 239, you want to have your stop. If it does bounce and we get a little bit of a bear market rally here, you get a good chance it's going to get up to at least this 50 EMA. May or may not, but it could. And I'll take a nice little ride from 270 to 290. And, I'll take 20 points. But it is a little more expensive stock. Tesla, that's another high flyer. And if I haven't covered that already, same deal. I bought this for my kids recently. It can really springboard off of that. But again, NASDAQ downturn, down market, most likely. One of the reasons why I actually got into it is because in the past you've had some nice long rides and it rarely gets to this 200 EMA. And also Elon Musk had to sell a bunch recently to buy Twitter. So that might have been reasons for some of this downdraft. So that's the 200 EMA. There's probably plenty of other stocks. There's computer. You can search the web, and it'll give you a list of 200 EME stocks trading near that. A lot of times you get some stocks that, who knows what they are, and you're going to do a lot of research to see if they're even worth trading on that. Talk a little bit more about the bull bear case. Let's take a look at the S&P. It's off 14.5% from its highs. 20% low pullback is considered a bear market. NASDAQ 24% from its highs, certainly in a bear market. Small caps 25%, certainly in a bear market. Like I said, 70% of the New York Stock Exchange stocks on the New York Stock Exchange are trading at 70% or below their 200 EMA. Tells you we're in a bear market. The dissertation and the stocks I suggested that you follow. If you do take long positions, be careful. You may want to be the contrarian and take a couple of short positions looking at the 200, like the Microsoft is the 200 EMA of resistance, and that's a good time to go short. Either way, it's a rare that we're in that case. So let's take a look at what's going on with the indices, just to kind of wrap this up. If you look at the diamonds, where are we at with regards to the 200 EMA in a daily? Well, it's went sideways for quite some time, and it dropped below, and it's not even we're not even close to hitting it for a resistance level. The only thing I say, it's, here was, a major low. It tried to test it again, and it took off, and you got a nice run. And then almost like, you can look at this really one-to-one here match, and it broke that low. It kind of popped back up, didn't really go too far, and it came down and tested the low again. And these are some decent volumes, nothing like the volume here on this low, or even this low here. But with that said, there is a case for a bear market rally. It might happen. A lot of people are calling for it. They're saying, hey, this is a good time to go long, nibble, or what have you. If you do, just be careful and keep your stops down around these red resistant lines, okay? I'm short. I also have my, stops pretty tight because, if the market starts going upward the next couple of days, I want to go long. NASDAQ, QQQ, the weakest compared to the Dow, definitely a long downtrend. 200 EMA is way up here. It's way below there. It did hit a low, came in, hit the low, bounce up, hit the low. It broke that previous low. We got a one-to-one over here, breaks the low, breaks the low, breaks the low. Usually when you hear something that hits a high or a low, there's 2-3 times in a row over a short period of time, and does not break that level, you're going to get a reversal. Okay, just what happens. Why, I don't know, but you're going to be looking here and you say, all right, it broke that low on the third time down. It broke it on the fourth time down just recently. And, we might add a little bit of a bear market rally here, but chances are it's heading south, right? Weekly, it broke the last low there. So, we're certainly heading down. Let's see. We haven't looked at the SPY. Let's look at the SPY real quick. Same scenario, more like the Dow, where, there could be an inflection point here, but downtrend and below the 200 EMA. So, excuse me, we're talking about, those stocks I mentioned. I'll repeat myself. Be careful if you take long positions there. And IWM small caps. This is an interesting one because if you kind of took this 200 EMA and you say, okay, it had been an uptrend, so you don't fight the trend, right? So it hits the 200 EMA. I'm taking long positions because that's where the trend was. I'm looking for the bounce. Went sideways pretty much for a while. Then got a nice little ride there. Hit the 200 EMA here, and it acted as resistance. At that point, you got to make a decision. In this particular case, going low, rearview mirror, right? Looks, it looks great when you're looking behind, but it became a resistance point, and it's been down ever since. Try to hit it again at a resistance point. So this has been a nice trade. It's the weakest of all indices. Be short, this most of the year, and it's worked out pretty good using that 200 EMA. Because I saw once it was just beaten down up around here, and it just couldn't make it. And we might find that in the future weeks coming ahead, days coming ahead for the diamonds and the SPY. The SPY, if it does bounce back up towards that 200 EMA, it's got a long way to go. It might be a strong resistance point. Great time to go short. But we'll have more segments on that. Okay, so that's today's segment about 200 EMA. How can you use it as a trader? And a couple of stocks and ideas to watch or take some either long or short positions. I'm going long at this particular time, and some of those thinking that we're going to get a bear market rally. We talked about what the EMA was, and okay, that closes our segment. So contacts, questions, ideas, email jim.net, search at comcast.net. This is kind of like the basement tapes, not high production, a lot of, whiz bang. I'm just trying to get information out there. I'd like to give you some stock tips. Also, if we can walk away from some of these segments and you've got a good trading philosophy and idea like my tips, and you incorporate your own, perfect. That's what we're looking for. Because if you're in the stock market, you're in it to make money, right? That's it. A lot of people use it as a parking space because it's their 401k. That's great. I'll have a segment on 401k or long-term investing in mutual funds. I use those certainly myself. I use it for my kids' accounts. Terrific way to make money, right? Especially in a 401k, and if you're still working. When somebody gives you free money and it's 100% return, take it, right? If you put in 10 and they give you 10, that's a heck of a return. You can't do that very often in the stock market. So you got to put it somewhere, and we'll go over some mutual funds. Input on previous segments, fire it up. Let me know. Topics you'd like covered. Absolutely. Any increase in particular stocks, I'll try to give you, my input on that. Entry points, exit points. Tell me if you're in it. Tell me where you got in it. I don't follow every stock. I'll try to give you what I can based on this. If it's a meme stock, don't even bother. I mean, I don't look at those. They have different fundamentals and different technicals, and definitely are more emotional type stocks. Many, many years ago, I called it the cult stock. It was dry ships, container shipping. Dry ships, I think they've changed their name now. And that thing was flying high, and I think it went down a penny. So, cult stock can be fun, but trade at your own risk. All right. So if you're in the market, you're in it to make money. Tomorrow's a golf day. I'll try to get a segment out in the next day or two. But, during the week, I like to play golf, and not many people are on the golf course. And hopefully the weather keeps improving. And, it's going to be harder to get some of these segments out real time. We'll see what we can do. All right. In the meantime, have a good time trading and have a great Mother's Day. Bye now.